Hey everyone, excited to be back for this week's edition of Frequently Asked Questions for Commercial Real Estate. In today's video, what I want to do is share my top picks for commercial real estate podcasts out there in the market today. And these are going to be in no particular order. They're just the ones that I've been listening to, even before I got into the commercial real estate business. And they provided me with a ton of value, and hopefully they provide you guys with a ton of value as well. But before we dive into this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So now you've done that, go ahead and like and subscribe below. Let's go ahead and dive right into this episode. All right, so in today's episode, we're going to share my top picks for commercial real estate podcasts out there. And again, like I said, they're in no particular order, and some of which I have been listening to for quite some time. So I'm really excited to share with these options with you today. So first, one of the podcasts that I've been listening to even before I got into the business was America's Commercial Real Estate Show by Michael Bull. He's been doing the podcast since, I believe, 2010, so it's been well over a decade, and he has had some phenomenal guests, all over the country, ranging from economists, people involved with the government when it comes to the Federal Reserve, et cetera. So he's had a bunch of different people come in and talk about a variety of different topics pertaining to commercial real estate. And he's been kind of the gold standard of commercial real estate podcasting ever since he started back in 2010. I actually had the honor to interview him on our podcast as of late, so I'm really happy and excited to share that he's one of my top picks when it comes to commercial real estate podcasts. So it's not number one, but it's just one of the podcasts that I really do enjoy. Number two is the Commercial Real Estate Investor podcast by Tyler Cobble. I actually saw Tyler Cobble, on YouTube several years ago, and ever since then, he's just been, a meteoric rise. He's a developer in Tennessee and has done some really cool projects. He also has a YouTube channel that I would highly encourage you to check out. But he always has people that come on that are investors, developers, just a variety of different people within the commercial real estate business. And his insights are always very, thought-provoking and valuable, and so I highly encourage you guys to check out the podcast, the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. I also encourage you guys to check out a good buddy of mine, Chad Griffith's podcast, the Industrial Real Estate Podcast. He really is trying to achieve the gold standard as it comes to industrial real estate content. He has a YouTube channel as well where he releases videos on a weekly basis, and his podcast interviews are absolutely phenomenal. He interviews brokers, developers, people in the trades. One of the most insightful, podcast episodes I listened to, he actually interviewed a gentleman who talked about the history of manufacturing and industrial buildings. But he had written a book about the subject, and I found it extremely insightful as it pertains to what goes in what went on and the evolution of the industrial real estate industry over time. And so I find it extremely insightful. I actually was a guest host of his podcast recently. So if you guys want to check that out, definitely do so. We're going to have it in the description below. But it is a phenomenal podcast that I highly encourage you guys to check out. Another great podcast that I love is Crushing It in Commercial Real Estate by Aaron Zucker. Aaron Zucker is a retail investor. He's a value-add investor. He searches out opportunities in the retail space, primarily with triple net and shopping centers and a variety of different other opportunities. He has a lot of investors and developers on his podcast, and he is just a go-getter. Very insightful individual, and a lot of the podcast episodes I've listened to of his have just been great. I do highly recommend, in particular, if you're interested in retail investing, you would be unwise to not listen to the podcast. So definitely check that out. And then finally, another podcast of a friend of mine that I think is phenomenal is the Commercial Real Estate Investing from A to Z podcast by Stephanie Boldrini. I actually had the honor to meet her recently. She came into Louisville for a conference, and we got to touch base, have lunch, and talk a little bit about what she's doing. But a lot of her podcast episodes are extremely insightful. She's had several where she interviews or talks to people who are looking to invest in commercial real estate. One of which that I listened to recently was a gentleman who was doing an analysis on whether or not to pursue a triple net investing opportunity based on the cap rate, and they analyzed the return on investment based on what the investment was going to be that he was going to put into it, and determined that it wasn't going to be feasible for them to pursue. But that type of insight when it comes to the granular approach of how to invest in commercial real estate, she does provide that. And all her guests that I've listened to, as far as her podcasts are concerned, are phenomenal. So I would highly encourage you guys to check out her podcast as well on Apple Podcasts. So those are some of the top podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. I also have some bonus podcasts that I also like to listen to and engage with. One of them being a good buddy of mine, again, Logan Hartle. He He has the True Commercial Real Estate podcast. They interview people on a monthly basis, and they interview real estate investors and developers and a variety of different people. I actually had the honor to be able to be interviewed by them as well, pertaining to how to build a brand in commercial real estate. So if you guys haven't checked it out, I highly encourage you to do so. They have a YouTube channel as well. It's called the True Commercial Real Estate Podcast, and we're going to include that in the show notes below. Along with that, we have another podcast called Where We Buy. It's a phenomenal podcast as it pertains to retail. This gentleman's James Scott with the JLL. We actually had the honor of interviewing him on our podcast as well. But he tracks, data for retail across the Americas, and he's just the go-to person when it comes to research for JLL. So he was able to provide a phenomenal amount of insights pertaining to, the retail investing and retail, in general, when it comes to luxury, grocery, all different types of retail. And so he has the opportunity to interview people who are developers, owners of retail properties, retail businesses, etc. So he does provide a lot of value as well. So we'll include that in the show notes as well. And then finally, I would be remiss to say if I didn't share the podcast that we do on a regular basis, Jeff Walston and myself, called the Commercial Real Estate Academy. Each week we interview people from a variety of different areas of commercial real estate, whether they're brokers, developers, lawyers, investors, you name it. When it comes to the commercial real estate industry, we try to provide that type of insight on our podcast as well. And like I said before, we release it on a weekly basis, and we've really tried to become the go-to resource when it comes to commercial real estate in the marketplace. So hopefully you gain some value from this video. I'm sure the content that I shared in this video will keep you busy for many, many weeks and months to come. There's a ton of great episodes in these podcasts, so I'd highly encourage you to listen to them and provide your feedback, and hopefully leave a 5-star review and provide as much support as you can, because we are a growing industry as far as the content creation side is concerned. And so I'd like to see a rising tide lift all boats, and hopefully we can all continue to grow as far as our reach is concerned. So another thing that I would greatly ask or appreciate from you guys is if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again so much for your support and tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.